The Age of the Pearl. From the inkwell of Albert Russo. Strolling along the nacre stretch of a South Pacific islet were an aging man and a female child. They were both naked and holding hands. "Tell me again, great-grandpa," the little girl inquired. "Why is it that we cannot go into the sea? When I look at the water and know I cannot dip my feet in it, I feel terribly sad." The centurion gazed silently at the turquoise expanse. Beads of perspiration rimmed his lashless eyes. Was there a tear among them? "Great-grandpa," the little girl said impatiently, "you haven't answered me. All you do when you come here is stare at the ocean. I won't come any more." The old man gently patted the child's shoulder. Still facing the aqueous immensity, he began to talk as if to himself. "It goes back so many years. As a matter of fact, the last time I remember having swum I must have been your age. This beach had real sand. You could feel its fluffiness under your toes. But the sea, Krilla, the sea," the old man lamented. "It was so incredibly beautiful and soothing. I'd dive in it and swim for hours on end. Deep under the water along the coral reef, I'd open my eyes, and suddenly there was magic. The glass sponge, so hospitable yet so discreet. The pink-eyed Indicus with its razor teeth, pious like a bald monk. The Atolla lighting up as if it were a Christmas tree. The octopus weed graceful as a ballerina, stroking shades of a diabolic dance. The sea fan, the wonder lamp, and oh, Krella, the silver fins. They would lead me to the secret entrances of the low realm. A living treasure trove, Krella." "But, great-grandpa," Krella whispered, reverent and incredulous at once, "are you all right?" The centurion lowered his eyes and smoothed Krella's blonde curls with the palm of his hand. "You think I've lost my mind, don't you? No, I'm not raving. I have seen them, just as I see you now." Krella gaped in wonderment. He spoke so passionately about everything she only half believed whatever he said. He'd come up with such amazing tales. Though he did appear quite lucid and had a vast knowledge of the universe, Krella was certain that her great-grandpa embellished his memories in a most fantastic manner. But she loved it, for he provided her with worlds she couldn't reach, even in her dreams. Once in a while he'd mention the scourge of the pearls, and he'd become extremely despondent. Nevertheless, he'd promised to tell her all about it, and this is how he finally recounted the story, using at times words and definitions that sounded totally outlandish to her. Long, long ago, pearls were a rarity indeed. To find a handful of them, you had to gather thousands of oysters. It would take weeks, even months, and people would die in search of a pearl. Generally, they'd drown. Do you know what a pearl is made of, Krella? It is an iridescent concretion produced by certain marine and freshwater mollusks. It is composed almost entirely of nacre, or mother of pearl, the compound which forms the inner layer of mollusk shells. A pearl, the only gem of animal origin, results from an abnormal growth of nacre around minute particles of foreign matter, such as sand. Let me also tell you about the oysters. These have separate sexes. Eggs and sperm are shed into the water, and after fertilization the embryo develops into a free-swimming larva with rudiments of a shell and a bundle of cilia for propulsion and feeding. As the shell enlarges, the veliger develops. This second larval form has a well-muscled foot, a bivalve shell, and internal organs. The spat, that is, the young oyster, remains free-swimming for some 2 weeks before settling down and attaching itself to a suitable surface. Some bivalves go through a brief parasitic phase that aids dispersal. The larva of these species must attach itself to a fish for development to take place. Afterward, the young bivalve abandons its host to take up an independent existence in the ocean. As I told you before, natural pearls were extremely rare until a Japanese, his name was Koichi Mikimoto, devised a method of cultivating pearls artificially. Mikimoto had to tackle a number of biology and marine science-related problems first. The red tide was one of them. The increase in plankton which tainted the sea blood red would kill the oysters by the millions. Then there were the octopi and the cold underwater currents. But our indefatigable Japanese fought relentlessly against the odds. Invention succeeded invention. He obtained hemispherical pearls initially. Then one day from the shell of a dead oyster he extracted a perfectly round gem. He cut the pearl in half and discovered in its center the spherical nucleus which he had originally implanted. Koichi Mikimoto pursued his research, improving both the color and the luster of his pearls. But it was by accelerating the growth function of oysters that Mikimoto revolutionized aquatic life. Never had he suspected the magnitude of his discovery, and least of all its outcome, for it reached far beyond the mere multiplication of cultured pearls, those pearls which adorned the delicate necks of women around the globe. To counter the murderous red tides, Mikimoto used culturing baskets and platforms attaching baby shells as a means of propagating oysters. And now, Krella, the pearls to which an industrious Japanese had devoted his life are as common as the grains of sand in the desert. They have washed ashore to cover all the beaches that lace our continents and the myriad isles, such as the one we are both standing on. There was sand here once, and pebbles too, but these have disappeared under layers of pearls. The white, black, pale blue, and indigo pearls we're so accustomed to. Great-grandpa, it's all very fascinating. About the pearls and the oysters, I mean, Krella said in a tone of expectation. But you haven't explained why I can't swim in the ocean the way you used to. Is it dangerous? The old man, obviously strained, walked the child to a flat rock on a promontory, made himself comfortable, and produced 2 ripe mangoes from a bag. He motioned the child to sit next to him and handed her a fruit. They both relished their snack, biting voluptuously into its juicy flesh. Krella had already finished hers while the centurion was still savoring the oblong fruit, licking its seed dry. Now that he had gathered new energy, he went on to satisfy the child's curiosity. I would come to this very place, dive into the sea, and look for oysters. I'd bring back home basketfuls of them, and we'd eat them raw. They were tender and delicious. The old man smiled, pinching Krella's cheek. Just like you. But this has changed. Do you know that humans traveled on the oceans and even lived under the water in what used to be called bathyspheres? For centuries we were masters of the seas, but in fact we knew so little about them. Today it is the ocean that rules us. The only thing we're allowed is to contemplate it and pump limited quantities of water, filtering and desalinating it for our daily needs. Have we done anything wrong, Great-Grandpa, that made the ocean so angry against us? The child asked, looking quite puzzled. Yes, Corella, we have abused it. We have dumped tons of refuse in it, poisoning part of its life, killing some of its most valuable creatures and flora. It took revenge, confining us to our land. We have become the sea's prisoners, Corella. Before, we needed each other like parent and child, brother and sister, man and woman. Before, there were rivers that flowed inland, rivers in which we could bathe and fish, some of them thousands of kilometers long. They are all dried up now. As a result, mankind depends on the goodwill of the seas. We have turned into orphans, Corella, and soon we shall have to look for another planet to settle on, lest we are reduced to parasites. Corella listened, dumbfounded, to the centurion's predicament. Her eyes pleaded, "Surely we will find a way to save everybody?" Then in the old man's mouth the words pearl and oyster exploded successively. "You're so young, Corella, but you ought to know nevertheless. Thanks to Mikimoto, the oysters have proliferated, unchecked, covering every reef and incline under the oceans, damming all estuaries. Oysters have grown to be the most populous species of our universe. What's more, they have learned to mass-produce pearls naturally, expelling them from their organisms, strewing them over our shores as to create a permanent barrier between land and sea. Their ultimate aim, Corella, is to eliminate the Earth's population, animal and plant alike. Every year they ration the water flow at the rate of 10%, and we humans have no alternative but to explore the galaxy for our survival. By the time you reach adulthood, you won't be living here any longer." "But what are the oysters doing in the ocean?" inquired Corella, unperturbed by an event which seemed to her far removed in the future. "They're building huge mazes underwater to safeguard the sea inhabitants. Imagine walls of oysters, scaffoldings, bridges of oysters. That's what they're doing. And sooner than we'd want it to happen, they'll be sealing off all that blue horizon you are gazing at. You can't notice it, Corella, for they're just below the surface. It's only a matter of years before they accomplish their project." Corella's face suddenly glowed. "Then we'll be able to walk on the water, Great-Grandpa. It'll be the most beautiful day of my life." The old man nodded, forcing a smile. "Why not?" he acknowledged to himself. "Why not?"
Hello, I'm Adam Donaldson Powell. In my new book entitled Under the SHIRTTAILs of Albert Russo, I explore the man, his writing, his passions, and his secrets.
As the last interview session came to a close, I suddenly asked Albert, "How do you feel now, after so many words written, so many exchanges of ideas, and so many books published?" He said, "Let me get back to you on that." Well, a few days later, he sent me his response in the form of a haiku sequence entitled "Prisoners of Our Tongue." He wrote, "Don't generalize. You oversimplify things. So I'm often told. Then I get mad and hit people where it hurts, hurling words at them. You exaggerate. You're too unconventional for your own good. All of a sudden, I realize that we are all in the same boat. I'm fighting in vain. The moment we open our mouths, we are trapped. No way of getting out unless we keep quiet. The solution? Silence.
From Tatiana Rousseau. I have to thank Adam Donaldson Powell for honoring my father and his work by penning this magnificent biography. This biography crowns 5 decades of my father's very prolific writing. Both my brother Alex and myself are immensely proud of our father's literary achievement. From his very deep insights on the history of Africa to the birth and struggles of the Israeli state, his poems and immensely entertaining short stories, humorous novels for teenagers, short stories covering the complexities of human nature, there isn't one topic that my father hasn't masterfully addressed in his writings.
Have you ever read a book and wondered, why did the author write about that? Does it have something to do with his own life? Well, my readers, I have asked those questions for you because I could.